By the time Michael Carter finally understood what had happened, his pregnant wife had already disappeared. Not missing, not hiding, gone. The security footage from the Carter estate showed Emily Carter walking barefoot through the front gate at 2:17 a.m. Her hair loose, her coat missing, one hand wrapped tightly around her stomach as rain soaked through her thin dress. 6 months pregnant, alone, confused. That was the last time anyone officially saw her. And if you're listening closely right now, kindly hit the subscribe button and tell me where you are watching from. Remember this moment, because nothing about that night happened by accident. Earlier that evening, the mansion in Bel Air, California glowed softly against the dark hillside. The kind of house people dream about, but never truly feel comfortable inside. Emily sat upstairs in the guest lounge, staring at a cup of herbal tea she hadn't touched. Her stomach twisted, not just from pregnancy, but from instinct. Something felt wrong. She rested her palm over her belly, breathing slowly. "It's okay," she whispered to the baby. "Mommy's here." Downstairs, laughter floated upward. A woman's laugh. Emily's chest tightened. She recognized that laugh. Sarah Whitmore, her husband's business partner, his advisor. The woman who always seemed to be around when Emily wasn't supposed to notice. Michael had told her she was imagining things. "You're hormonal," he'd said once, smiling gently. "Don't let your mind turn nothing into something." That sentence replayed in Emily's head now. Don't turn nothing into something. Emily stood and followed the sound of voices toward the private bar on the East Wing. She stopped when she heard her husband's name. "You've let this go on long enough, Michael," Sarah said calmly. Emily froze. Michael sighed. "I told you she's pregnant. This isn't the time." Sarah laughed softly, not amused, calculated. "That's exactly why this is the time." Emily's breath caught. "If you're still listening," she thought faintly, "stay with me." Michael lowered his voice. "You promised me this wouldn't get messy." "I promised you a solution," Sarah replied. "Not comfort." There was a pause. Then Sarah added quietly, "And I always deliver." Emily pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. "What solution?" Later that night, Sarah appeared upstairs with a drink. Emily hadn't heard her approach. "Hey," Sarah said warmly, holding out a crystal glass. "I noticed you didn't eat much at dinner." Emily forced a polite smile. "I'm fine. It's just sparkling water," Sarah continued smoothly, "with ginger and lemon. Helps with nausea." Michael stood a few feet behind her, scrolling through his phone. Not watching, not protecting. Emily hesitated. The glass felt cold in her hand. She took a sip. It tasted off. Metallic. She frowned. "This doesn't taste like." "Give it a second," Sarah said gently, placing a hand on her arm. "Your taste buds change during pregnancy." Emily nodded. She wanted peace. She wanted the tension to stop. Within minutes, the room shifted. Her head felt heavy. Her vision blurred. "Michael," Emily whispered. "I feel dizzy." He finally looked up. "You okay?" Sarah answered her. "She's anxious." Totally normal. Emily tried to stand. Her legs gave out. Michael rushed forward just as she sank onto the couch. The baby kicked hard. Once. Twice. Then, nothing. Panic ripped through her chest. "My stomach," she gasped. "Something's wrong." Sarah leaned closer, her lips near Emily's ear. Her voice dropped, low, calm, terrifying. "Relax," she whispered. "You don't need to fight this." Michael watched. He watched his wife struggle to focus. Watched her breathing turn shallow. Watched fear fill her eyes. And he told himself Sarah knew what she was doing. He told himself Emily would be fine. Later, he would realize that this moment, this single decision to stay quiet, changed everything. But by then, it was too late. Emily was moved to the guest bedroom. Not their bedroom. Sarah insisted Emily needed space. Michael didn't argue. A housekeeper checked once. Emily was breathing. Barely. At 2:03 a.m., the security system logged movement. At 2:17 a.m., Emily walked out the front gate. No phone, no shoes, no jacket. The guard later said she looked out of it like she didn't know where she was. And then she vanished. Sirens woke Michael. Police cars. Paramedics. Questions. Sarah stood at the bottom of the stairs, perfectly calm. "She's gone," she said. "Emily's missing." Michael's heart dropped. "What do you mean gone?" Sarah tilted her head. "I assumed she told you." That was the moment the billionaire felt fear for the first time. Real fear. Because something about her tone felt rehearsed. Before the night Emily disappeared. Before the sirens and the questions and the empty bed. There was a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. And a lie that lived quietly inside it. If you're listening right now, remember this. Most betrayals don't begin with hate. They begin with comfort. Michael Carter met Emily Ross at a charity fundraiser in Palo Alto, years before the mansion, before the money became uncountable. Emily was warm, grounded, the kind of woman who listened more than she spoke. Michael liked that. She didn't challenge him, didn't compete, didn't demand. To Michael, that felt like peace. To Emily, it felt like love. They married quietly. No scandals, no drama, just vows, champagne, and promises that sounded solid in the moment. And for a while it worked, until Michael's world expanded faster than Emily's could keep up. Sarah came into Michael's life during a brutal business year. She was sharp, confident, efficient, everything Emily wasn't trying to be. "She's just helping me manage pressure," Michael told Emily one night, casually, as if explaining a delayed flight. Sarah Whitmore quickly became essential. She handled negotiations, spoke for Michael in rooms Emily was never invited into, answered questions Emily didn't even know existed. And slowly, almost invisibly, she started replacing Emily in ways that didn't feel obvious at first. Sarah sat closer to Michael at dinners. Sarah finished his sentences. Sarah knew his schedule better than his wife did. Emily noticed. Of course she did. But every time she brought it up, Michael smiled gently. "You're imagining things," he said. "She works for me. That's it." And Emily believed him. Because believing him was easier than facing the alternative. The first warning sign. It happened at a fundraiser in Santa Monica. Emily had just found out she was pregnant. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even Michael. She wanted it to be special. She wanted it to be just theirs for a moment. Sarah stood beside her at the bar, swirling a drink. "You should slow down," Sarah said casually. "Alcohol isn't good for what you're carrying." Emily froze. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. "I what?" Sarah smiled, unfazed. "I have instincts like that. You glow differently." Emily laughed it off, told herself it was coincidence. But later that night, when Michael held her, she felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. How did Sarah know? Once Emily's pregnancy became public, Sarah changed. She became softer, kinder, concerned. She checked in constantly. "How are you feeling today? Are you resting enough? Michael works so much. You need support." To anyone watching, Sarah looked like a friend. To Emily, she felt necessary. Michael was always busy, always distracted. Sarah was always there. And when Emily expressed discomfort, Sarah tilted her head sympathetically. "You don't trust me?" she'd ask quietly. The question wasn't aggressive. It was worse. It made Emily feel guilty. One night, Emily stood outside Michael's office, her hand hovering over the door handle. She could hear them inside, Michael and Sarah, laughing, close. She almost walked in, almost demanded answers, almost chose herself. Instead, she turned away, because she was tired, because she was pregnant, because she didn't want to be the woman who overreacted. And if you're listening right now, remember this moment too, because silence always feels harmless, until it isn't. What Emily couldn't see, what no one told her, was that Sarah had already begun planning. Emails deleted, schedules adjusted, doctors recommended, small things, invisible things. By the time Emily felt something was truly wrong, the story of her fragile emotional state had already been written by someone else. And Michael? Michael read that version and believed it. The morning before Emily disappeared, She stood in front of the mirror, one hand on her stomach, one on the sink. She looked pale, tired. She told herself she just needed rest. Downstairs, Sarah waited with a smile and a drink. And upstairs, the baby kicked, as if warning her. If someone had told Emily that the most dangerous thing in that house would be labeled help, she might have laughed. Because danger, in her mind, looked loud, obvious, cruel. What she didn't know yet was that the most effective harm comes wrapped in concern. The decision wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting, no rage, no threats. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, inside Michael's glass-walled office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. Sarah sat across from him, legs crossed, tablet balanced on her knee. "She's getting weaker," Sarah said calmly. "Have you noticed?" Michael rubbed his temples. "Pregnancy is hard on her." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Exactly. And stress makes it worse." Michael didn't respond. Sarah leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "If something happened to Emily," she continued gently, "the press would eat you alive. A billionaire husband who pushed his pregnant wife too far." Michael stiffened. "I would never." "I know," Sarah interrupted softly. "That's why we need to be careful." Careful. That word landed exactly where Sarah intended. "She needs rest," Sarah added. "Structure. Supervision. Until she stabilizes." Michael exhaled slowly. "What are you suggesting?" Sarah didn't smile. "Temporary measures." That was the moment the line was crossed. From that day on, Emily was no longer tired. She was fragile, no longer emotional. She was unstable. Michael started repeating the words Sarah used, sometimes without realizing it. "She's overwhelmed. She doesn't handle pressure well. She's not herself lately." Each sentence rewrote Emily's reality. And when Emily sensed the shift, it terrified her. Because suddenly, people weren't listening to her. They were watching her. The doctor's office smelled like disinfectant and lavender. Emily sat on the examination table, swinging her feet slightly, nervous. Michael sat beside her. Sarah stood near the window. "I didn't know you were coming," Emily said quietly. Sarah smiled. "Michael asked me to." Michael avoided Emily's eyes. The doctor spoke kindly, but his questions felt rehearsed. "How often are you sleeping? Do you feel anxious? Any dizziness? Confusion?" Emily answered honestly. "Yes, yes, yes." Sarah nodded along, concerned. Michael squeezed Emily's hand, not tightly, but enough to anchor her. "See," Sarah said later in the hallway. "I told you. She needs help." Emily heard that sentence. It chilled her. The medication was framed as harmless. "Just something mild," Sarah explained later that night, handing Emily a small pill with a glass of water. "Doctor approved. It'll help you relax." Emily hesitated. Michael nodded. "If it helps you feel better." She took it. Within minutes, her thoughts dulled. The world softened at the edges. Her fear went quiet. Sarah watched closely and made a note. Over the next few days, Sarah became indispensable. She managed Emily's schedule, controlled her meals, reminded her to take what the doctor prescribed. When Emily questioned anything, Sarah responded with concern. "You're forgetting again. You're confused, sweetheart. You asked for this." Emily began doubting herself. Was she, or was someone else deciding for her? The night before Emily disappeared, she stood in the nursery alone. Her hand brushed over the unfinished crib. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She whispered, "I don't feel safe." She didn't know who she was saying it to. Downstairs, Sarah poured the drink carefully. Measured. Precise. Michael watched from the doorway. "You're sure this is okay?" he asked. Sarah didn't look up. "You trust me," she said. And Michael nodded. The first sip burned. The second made her dizzy. By the third, the room no longer made sense. Her thoughts slowed. Her body felt heavy. She tried to stand. Failed. "Michael," she whispered. He was there, but he didn't stop it. Sarah's voice floated through the fog. "This is for the best." As Emily lay there, barely conscious, one thought cut through everything else. They've decided I don't matter. And somewhere deep inside her, beneath the fear and drug haze. Something hardened. If you've been wondering how a pregnant woman could vanish from a billionaire's mansion without alarms screaming or police stopping her at the gate, this is where the truth starts to surface. And it's not clean. The man who made it possible. His name was Daniel Brooks, head of estate security, former private contractor, quiet, efficient, loyal to one thing only, whoever signed his checks. Daniel had worked for Michael Carter for 6 years. He knew the blind spots in the camera system. He knew which guards asked questions and which ones didn't. And most importantly, he knew when not to log an override. At 1:48 a.m., Daniel received a text from Sarah. "She's ready." He didn't reply. At 1:52 a.m., he disabled one exterior camera for exactly 4 minutes. Not long enough to look suspicious, just long enough to move someone. What the footage showed later looked simple. Emily alone, confused, leaving voluntarily. What it didn't show was Daniel guiding her through the service corridor first, supporting her weight, keeping her upright, whispering directions she wouldn't remember. She wasn't running away. She was being relocated. Sarah stood in the monitoring room, arms folded, eyes calm. "Be gentle," she instructed through the earpiece. "She's fragile." Fragile. That word again. Daniel hesitated only once. "She's pregnant," he said quietly. Sarah's tone sharpened, not loud but final. "And she's a liability." Michael wasn't in the room. He was upstairs, asleep. That was Sarah's decision. At 2:14 a.m., Emily was guided to the front gate. Rain soaked her hair. Her dress clung to her skin. Daniel stepped back just before the final camera picked her up again. Emily swayed forward on her own, barefoot, empty-eyed. At 2:17 a.m., she crossed the threshold. Free in appearance only. 30 miles away, in a quiet medical recovery center outside Pasadena, a room had already been prepared. Private entrance. No records tied to Michael Carter's name. Sarah had planned it weeks earlier, under a shell company. Emily arrived unconscious. They listed her as E. Ross. No last name. No emergency contact. Michael's first instinct wasn't panic. It was annoyance. Emily's side of the bed was empty. He assumed she'd moved rooms again. Then he saw the open gate alert on his phone. Then the police. Then Sarah's calm face. "She must have been confused," Sarah said softly. "You know how she's been." Michael stared at the footage. Emily didn't look like herself. She looked hollow. Guilt crept in. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did everything you could." That sentence stuck. Hours later, as investigators combed through the estate, one officer paused. "This camera loop here," he said. "There's a gap." Sarah smiled politely. "Technical issue. Happens sometimes." Michael nodded along, but something in his chest tightened, because for the first time, the explanation felt too smooth. Emily woke up on her white lights. Machines beeped softly. Her throat burned. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. The baby kicked. Relief flooded her, followed immediately by terror. She wasn't home. She tried to sit up. A nurse appeared. "Easy," the woman said gently. "You had a rough night." Emily swallowed. "Where am I?" The nurse hesitated. "You're safe." That answer scared her more than the truth would have. Emily didn't remember everything at once. It came in pieces, fragments, sharp flashes that cut through the fog. And the first thing she remembered clearly wasn't the drug. It was Sarah's voice. Emily lay still beneath the thin hospital blanket, staring at the ceiling. The room smelled sterile. Too clean, too quiet. Her hand rested on her stomach again. The baby kicked. Hard. Tears slid into her hairline. "We're still here." A nurse adjusted the four. "You're doing great," she said gently. "Just try to rest." Emily swallowed. "How long have I been here?" The nurse hesitated. "Almost 24 hours. 24. Emily's chest tightened. She closed her eyes, and suddenly, the memory forced its way back. Sarah leaning close, her breath warm against Emily's ear. "You don't need to fight this." Emily's eyes flew open. Her heart started racing. "That woman," Emily whispered. "She was here." The nurse frowned. "Who?" "The woman who brought me." The nurse checked the chart. "You arrive alone." Emily shook her head weakly. No, she was with me. She planned this. The nurse's expression shifted, subtle, cautious. I'll let the doctor know you're awake, she said, already backing away. Emily knew that look. The look that said, we think you're confused. Sarah's voice echoed again. Fragile, unstable. Emily clenched the blanket. No, not this time. Sarah had been careful. She controlled the narrative. The doctors, the timing. But she made one mistake. She assumed Emily would stay silent. In the early afternoon, while the staff changed shifts, Emily noticed something on the bedside table. Her purse, folded neatly, returned. Inside it, her phone. No signal bars, but powered on. Sarah hadn't destroyed it. Emily's hands trembled as she opened her recent calls. One unsent voicemail draft blinked on the screen. Timestamp, 1:36 a.m. Her breath caught. She pressed play. Static at first. Then, Sarah's voice. Clear. Cold. She's not as weak as you think. We have to do this tonight. Emily felt dizzy. Michael's voice followed. Quiet. Uneasy. You said it was safe. Sarah again. It's controlled. Trust me. The recording cut off. Emily stared at the screen. This wasn't confusion. This was proof. Emily didn't know how long she had. She didn't know who Sarah had been watching. She opened a new message, typed with shaking fingers. Michael, if you're seeing this, I didn't leave. Sarah did this. I heard everything. Please, don't trust her. She attached the audio file. Hit send. The message didn't show delivered, but it didn't bounce back either. Emily dropped the phone onto her chest and started crying. Not loud, silent, shaking, because once that message went through, there was no going back. Michael was in his office when his phone vibrated. One message. Unknown location. Emily's name. His chest tightened. He opened it. Listened. Sarah's voice filled the room. We have to do this tonight. Michael went cold. He replayed it. Again. Again. His hands started shaking. He stood up so fast his chair slammed into the wall. Sarah, he whispered. Nothing made sense anymore. Every calm explanation. Every gentle reassurance. All lies. Sarah knew something was wrong the moment Michael didn't answer her call. She stood in the same monitoring room as before, staring at the screens. Daniel's station was empty. Her phone buzzed. One missed call, then another. Her jaw tightened. For the first time, irritation slipped through her composure. She woke up, Sarah muttered. She turned sharply. We're moving the timeline. That evening, Emily overheard two nurses whispering outside her room. Security's coming tomorrow. They said she might be transferred. Transferred. Emily's heart pounded. If she stayed, Sarah would finish what she started. Emily swung her legs off the bed, dizzy but determined. She grabbed her purse, her phone, and when no one was looking, she slipped into the hallway. Emily didn't run. Not at first. She walked, slowly, carefully, down the dim hospital hallway, one hand pressed against her stomach, the other gripping her phone like it was the only thing tethering her to reality. Every step sent a warning through her body. Don't rush. Don't panic. Don't let them see fear. Because fear was exactly what Sarah expected. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Emily stepped inside alone. As the doors slid shut, her knees nearly gave out. She leaned against the wall, breathing shallowly. Just get outside, she told herself. Someone will help once you're outside. The elevator descended, floor by floor. Her phone vibrated. A text. Sarah, you shouldn't be out of bed. Emily's blood ran cold. Sarah knew. Emily didn't reply. The doors opened to the lobby. She stepped out and froze. Sarah Whitmore stood near the reception desk, calm as ever, dressed in a tailored coat like she'd stepped out for coffee, not to retrieve a woman she'd nearly erased. You're not well enough to be wandering, Sarah said gently, approaching. Emily took a step back. You drugged me. Sarah sighed, almost sadly. Emily, listen to yourself. That tone again, the one that made doubt creep in. I heard you, Emily said, her voice shaking but firm. I heard what you said to Michael. Sarah stopped walking. For the first time, her expression changed. Not panic, not fear. Annoyance. You were never supposed to remember, she said flatly. Emily's heart raced. Why? She demanded. Why are you doing this? Sarah looked at her for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not kindly, not gently, honestly, because Michael was never the prize. The words hit harder than any slap. Emily stared. What? Sarah stepped closer, lowering her voice. This baby, she said, glancing at Emily's stomach, is worth more than Michael will ever be. Emily's breath caught. Sarah continued, her voice smooth and terrifying. The trust fund, the inheritance structure, the clauses Michael never reads. She smiled again. A biological heir secures everything. Emily shook her head. You're lying. Sarah leaned in. I helped design it. Michael didn't just trust Sarah with business. He trusted her with legacy planning. Sarah had positioned herself as indispensable, advisor, strategist, executor. If Emily disappeared quietly, if the pregnancy was framed as unstable, then Sarah would step in to protect Michael's interests, control the narrative, control the assets, control the child. You were supposed to disappear, Sarah said calmly. Not wake up. Emily's vision blurred. You were going to take my baby. Sarah didn't deny it. She tilted her head. I was going to raise it better. That was the moment something inside Emily snapped. Step away from her. Michael's voice cut through the lobby. Sarah turned slowly. Michael stood near the entrance, eyes red, face drained of color. He held up his phone. I heard everything, he said. The recording. All of it. Sarah's composure cracked, just slightly. Michael, she said softly, you're emotional. He laughed once. A broken sound. I trusted you. You trusted me because I was right, Sarah shot back. She couldn't handle this life. Emily stared at him, waiting. Michael looked at her, and for the first time really looked. I'm sorry, he whispered. The apology came too late to heal anything. Sirens sounded outside. Sarah's jaw tightened. This doesn't end how you think it does, she warned. She turned and walked calmly toward the exit, but two security officers stepped in her path. Daniel Brooks stood behind them. He wouldn't meet Sarah's eyes. Statement's been revised, he said quietly. Sarah laughed. Low. Dangerous. You think this fixes it? She said. You think this gives you your wife back? She looked directly at Emily. You're already damaged. That sentence was meant to destroy her. But it didn't. Emily placed both hands on her stomach and stood taller. As Sarah was escorted away, a paramedic rushed toward Emily. Ma'am, he said urgently, we need to get you upstairs now. Emily frowned. What? The paramedic glanced at the monitor. Your vitals just dropped. Emily gasped as pain ripped through her abdomen. Michael caught her just as her knees buckled. Emily, he shouted. She clutched his sleeve. If anything happens to me, she whispered, protect the baby. The sirens grew louder. The lights blurred. And the last thing Emily felt was fear. The room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Emily came back to consciousness slowly, like someone swimming up from deep water. The beeping of a monitor reached her first, then the tightness in her chest, then the sharp awareness of her body, heavy, sore, but still here. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. It was still round, still warm. A breath she didn't realize she'd been holding escaped her lips. She's awake. Michael's voice cracked when he spoke. Emily turned her head slightly and saw him sitting beside the hospital bed, shoulders slumped, eyes red and swollen like he hadn't slept in days. How long? She asked. 2 days, he said quietly. You collapsed in the lobby. They said it was acute stress combined with the drugs still in your system. Emily swallowed. The baby. Michael nodded quickly. Stable. Strong heartbeat. Tears slid silently down Emily's temples and into her hair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Emily said the words that had been sitting in her chest since she woke up. Why didn't you protect me? Michael flinched. I thought I was, he said. I trusted the wrong person. Emily turned her face toward the window. Trust had almost killed her. The case against Sarah Whitmore moved fast. Too fast. Charges filed. Evidence stacked neatly. Audio recordings, financial trails, hospital footage. Even Daniel Brooks cooperated fully. handing over documents he claimed he'd been afraid to release. The media framed it cleanly. Disgraced advisor betrays billionaire family. Sarah's face filled screens for a week, then disappeared. Michael's legal team assured Emily it was over. She won't be a threat again, they said. The courts agreed. Everything wrapped up with unsettling ease. And that bothered Emily more than anything else. Michael tried to repair things in gestures. He changed locks, fired staff, sold properties Sarah had touched. He spoke softly now, carefully, but something had shifted. One evening, as rain streaked the windows of their penthouse, Emily finally said it. "You almost lost us." Michael nodded. "I know." "No," she corrected. "You chose convenience over listening to me." Silence sat between them. "I didn't believe you because believing you meant admitting I failed," he said. Emily stood slowly. "That's the problem," she said. "You always believed your systems would save you. Your money, your people." She placed a hand on her stomach. "They almost killed me." Michael had no answer. Weeks later, Emily was packing away hospital paperwork when something fell from the folder. A folded slip of paper. She frowned and opened it. It wasn't medical. It was handwritten. "You survived because I allowed it." "We're not finished." No name. No date. Emily's heart began to race. She checked the envelope. No return address. The handwriting wasn't Sarah's. That night, she checked the baby monitor twice. Then 3 times. They didn't sleep at all. Michael stood in the doorway, watching her pace. "What's wrong?" he asked. Emily folded the note and slipped it into her pocket. "Nothing," she said, but she knew better. Some stories don't end when the villain is removed. Some threats just change shape. She rested her hand over her stomach and whispered softly to herself, "I won't let them touch you." Outside, the city lights flickered, and somewhere, someone was watching. Thank you for listening to this story. Do you think justice always comes clean? Do you think survival means safety? Remember this story, because sometimes the most dangerous part comes after the truth. And sometimes the line never really disconnects. Let me know in the comments section what you think about this story.